What are some of the biggest misconceptions about spirituality that we see being spread around the web? Welcome to the Serenity Journey. My name is James, and I help you live with more intention, create more self awareness, and overcome the internal struggles and heal your internal wounds. Uh, we are coming back to talk today about our process of creating life or creating a spiritual awareness about ourselves. And to me, spirituality has been a huge theme in my life, but I see a lot of things that are being misconstrued or spread misinformation in some cases about what this spiritual journey is all about and how it works. So I thought I would come on today and just share about some of the misconceptions that I see myself being spread around, and I would love experiences that are being shed. So that brings us to our question of the day. What is the misconceptions that you seeing being shared around spirituality? Leave me a comment in the chat or leave me a question down below in the comment sections. If you're watching this on the replay, I would love to know your stuff and be able to discuss that with other people. So leave us those comments and let us know what you think. So there's three big ones that I wanted to talk about today that are things that I see myself going on within the spiritual community. And these are things that create more dissension among people. It's something that creates a sense of disharmony and it just sometimes spreads misinformation that actually causes more problems than good. And I've experienced buying into some of these misconceptions myself, and it led me into more deeper into the dark side of life. It did not help me to grow and expand the way it was intended to. And I understand them deeper and they have their place, but sometimes it's about where you get it and how we perceive the information that's being shared. So the first misconception that a lot of people talk about is the misconception of the tools that we use, the things that we do. So I've been involved in different forms of ritualism, different kinds of magical work or ritual work, and I want you to stop that we, but these are simply tools that we use in the process of our spiritual journey. These are tools that help us to expand. To me, the spiritual journey is about a relationship. It's about my relationship with myself and my relationship to the divine oneness, to the creator. And this is really what the spiritual journey is about. It's about deepening that relationship with divine oneness and with my relationship with myself. It's a very internal journey. It is not about outward self expression. Again, thank you for joining us. So, we're just talking about some of the misconceptions about spirituality that I see being promoted around the web. It's not tools. It's not about the rituals. It's not about the outward things that we do, the manifestation work, the spell casting if you're into magical things, or the rituals are just processes that we use. And sometimes they're an important part of that process because they help us to create the energy field. So they are important parts of the process, but they are not the purpose of the process. I don't do the spiritual work to be able to manifest things, to do something, to create things, to make things happen. I am in there to build a relationship. The entire purpose of the relationship with myself and with my higher power, with the higher, whatever you want to call it. I don't away a great myth. That connection, that real is what spirituality is all about. So that's the first misconception that I see a lot of people making. And if you have any comments, feel free to leave me a message in the chat and let me know what you think about these ideas as we're sharing them as well. If you're watching this on the replay, leave me a comment below and let me know what you think as well. And I would love to get into discussions with the people about these. So the second big misconception that I see is the and this and that it's about that relationship. And the second misconception is that relationship with an outside entity. One of the things with that relationship with divine unity is recognizing that the divine is within us, that we are expressions of the divine. And it is not something outside of ourselves to seek. It is not something that is lost. It recognize that the spiritual journey, illusions of separation that we have created throughout our lives and as we break free of those misconceptions and we recognize that we are the divine and that we are expressions of the divine, then this empowers us to be able to see that in others as well. We have to find it within ourselves first before we can see it in others. But we have to find it within ourselves. And the journey is about understanding that connection, understanding that expression, and understanding and accepting that everything we do and we are is an expression of divine source and oneness. And so I hope that this is not throwing too many people off. Yeah, my is my audio cutting in and out as well? I don't know what I can do about it. Hmm. Um, it's my internet connection is going in and out. It's going up and down. That's the joy of live streaming. Sometimes things go wonky on us, and it's hard to keep everything going straight. I'm monitoring it, but there's not a whole lot I can do about it right this minute. So, all right. Exploring this divine oneness, we start exploring what it is. I have been doing a lot of work in this area. The third one, and it's something that I personally have found to be true, is recognizing, one of the biggest mistakes and misconceptions being spread in most spirituality circles, and it actually becomes very toxic. And it was very toxic for me because it forces us to live in the world of an illusion instead of truly embracing our own spiritual journey, which is that it's not all love and light. It's not all beautiful sunshine and rainbows. And it's not meant to be, you know, and the creator created everything, the light and the darkness, and is in the light and the darkness. And I was actually in a discussion on Clubhouse earlier today where this question was asked: how do you recognize the love and divineness in another when they are in that dark energy, in their dark emotional energy? And the this is something I've been working on myself. It's something I've been, looking at within myself. And the thing that I came to recognize in myself is if I'm going to recognize it in another, I have to first recognize it in myself. And it's called the law of correspondence: as within, so without, as above, so below. It's one of the Hermetic principles, which Hermeticism is one of the areas of philosophy I've been studying very deeply lately. And what this means is what we see outside of ourselves is a reflection of what we see inside of ourselves. What we see in the world around us is a reflection of the divine nature and the divine everything. So we can see and understand the divine through understanding and seeing the correlations between our experience of the world around us. But it all begins within. So, in order to see the divine oneness and nature in another person when they're angry or upset or jealous or angry and hateful towards us, we have to first be able to see that divine oneness within ourselves when we are in those states. And this is something I've been working on in my own life. I've had a lot of times in my own life, and my family can attest to this, where I have been angry and I have been not very nice and I have been judgmental and I have been in a very dark, negative place and in a lot of my darker emotions. When we start recognizing that we are being just as much in alignment with our spiritual nature when we are in those emotions and in that dark side of ourselves as we are when we are in the love and the light, then we can become more accepting of our dark side. We all have a dark side and a light side. If you look outside of yourself, look at the world. We have daytime and we have nighttime. We have the period of day and light, and we have a period of darkness. And life goes in this cycle. A lot of people that are promoting spiritual culture and spiritual ideas are talking about trying to create this world of no darkness. Well, that would be like saying that the sun will come up and never go down. It just doesn't, it defies the laws of nature to say that there should be no darkness. We have to embrace and accept the darkness as well as the light. Now, we do want to spend more of our energy and time in the light. I was going through a work called The Law of One. I think it's one of the most underrated books that's ever been written. It's a work of channeled works that came out in the 1980s. Um, and in that channeled work, one of the things that came out was that to polarize as a positively oriented person, we have to be 51% in the light and 49% in the dark. That means that we have to have a preponderance, we have to have a majority of being in the light, but we still have the dark part of ourselves. And we have to love and embrace ourselves in both places. We have to recognize the divinity in ourselves when we are in the light. The light, the love and the light, that is the feminine energy. And the darkness is the masculine energy. And both paths, both ways are important. And we need to find harmony in that. The love and the light is the path of love, and the path of darkness is the pathway to wisdom. So we can't truly develop wisdom if we don't explore the darkness, if we don't embrace the darkness and be comfortable with the darkness. So this is something that we have to do. We have to find a balance in the harmony. We want to be higher in the than we are in the darkness and spend more time in the love and the light than we do in the darkness. But it's not all about love and light. And we need to learn to accept first ourselves and love ourselves and see the divinity in ourselves when we're in our darkness. And as you start experiencing that deeper and deeper with yourself, then you are going to be able to do it with others. And the reason I was doing this and what got me into exploring this was this idea that we have this global conflict going on right now over in Russia and the Ukraine. And I was doing this activation of energy for the people in the Ukraine through a meditation work I was doing. And one of the things that came to me through that meditation was I also needed to do that for the people, the aggressors of the situation, the people in Russia and the government in Russia who is actually behind it, because the people of Russia are actually against the entire thing. Um, and they're as much victims of this circumstance to their own government as the people of the Ukraine are. So I started saying, okay, how do I find that activation and activate energy for the people that are the aggressors in this situation? And what I got was I had to first find it within myself. and then I could see it without. And so I started working on that. I started working on finding that within myself and finding that harmony and that peace within myself, within my own shadow self, in my own darkness. And one of the things that I've come to find as I explore this really, really deeply is that the shadow part of ourselves is just as important as the light, and diving into and being comfortable in our own shadows and being able to find our own divinity in the shadow side of ourselves is something that's missing in a lot of the spiritual culture, and nobody is teaching this. I went looking for, okay, how do I do this? I went looking for, okay, where is, and there's literally nobody teaching how to do this, so I'm winging it, trying to figure it out for myself. um and but this is just something that's been coming to me more and more strongly in the last few weeks, and this is part of it. We have to find that balance and harmony. It's not about being all in the love, it's not about being all in the light. We have to find the harmony in both sides of the equation, and in order to fully embrace ourselves when we are in our darkness, fully love ourselves and accept our own divine nature when we are in the darkness, that we are just as connected to the divine as we are when we're in the love and the light. And the love and the light is important. I'm not here to shame that. I'm not here. But one of the things that I found was I was creating an illusion of love and light when I was in my own darkness. And that was part of what led me into my depression that I went through a couple of years ago. I was in this really dark place. And part of it was I was creating an illusion of being something that I wasn't. I was trying to create an illusion and this persona of being in the love and the light, and being this, because I'm supposed to be spiritual, so supposed to be all happy and sunshine and rainbows all the time. And it just was inauthentic. It was unreal. It wasn't where I was really at. And so when I started embracing my own darkness, that helped me to come out of the depression. When I started embracing my own dark sides, my own dark emotions, that's when we really dive into that part of ourselves we can't heal. We can't heal ourselves, and if we can't heal ourselves, we can't heal other people. We can't heal this broken world until we start individually healing ourselves. We can't bring healing into other people's energy as long as we are not embracing our darkness. So I don't want to be stuck there, but we have to recognize these are all of these principles that I've been learning in Hermeticism. It's the law of gender, masculine and feminine. It's the law of causality. It's the law of um, rhythm. We got the law of rhythm is, that we go through cycles. We go through cycles of light. We go through cycles of darkness. We go into cycles of light. And we go into cycles of darkness. We can't develop and grow if we don't have any darkness. If you think about it, this is something I learned a long time ago, and it's just something that I'm really starting to understand as I've been diving into this at a much deeper level. Is whenever we are prosperous and things are going well and things are flowing and we're in that centered in that love and light state, we tend to party. We tend to just enjoy the flow and enjoy the process. But when we go into the darkness, when we're struggling, when we are suffering, that's when we grow and expand. That's when we start learning. That's when we start seeing what we like about ourselves and what we don't like ourselves. That's when we really start seeing what we need to change and what we need to grow. So we have to be comfortable in the darkness, but we don't want to live in the darkness. We want to be comfortable with the darkness. We want to accept our darkness, and we need to see the divine influence, because it doesn't say that, God created the heavens and the earth and the light and the darkness, and the light part was good and the dark part was bad. It doesn't say that. Nothing says that. None of the spiritual texts I've ever studied says that. It says that God created the light and the darkness, and all that God created was good. All of it, light and darkness, is all good. It all comes from the same place. We have to stop judging, letting go of our judgment of ourselves when we're in our darkness. That's the first step to acceptance. We can't accept ourselves and we can't love ourselves and see that divinity within us as long as we're sitting in judgment of it. This is where a lot of our negative self-talk comes from. And this is one of the things that kept me from sharing this journey for many, many years was I believed because I was in this darkness myself, I couldn't share my experience. I couldn't share my journey because I had all these periods of my life where I'm still in my own darkness and I haven't healed all those yet. But I'm coming to recognize that it's okay to share my journey where I'm at. It's okay to be in my darkness and still share my truth because this is part of who I am. This is part of my vision of where I'm at. And I'm not here to have this perfect love and light, rainbows and sunshine kind of person. That's not what I was born to be. I was born to be somebody that lives in a harmony between the light and the darkness, and to love myself, whichever one I'm in at the moment, and to love others, whichever one they are in the moment. Now, that doesn't mean we excuse the behavior. That doesn't mean that we gaslight or that we keep people stuck in their behavior. But a lot of what's happening in these spiritual communities when they start talking about them, invalidating their experience, and that keeps people stuck. It doesn't help. It's hurting more people than it's helping, and we're supposed to be helping people. If we're a light worker, we should also be a shadow worker. In other words, as a light worker, we bring the love and the light. But as a shadow worker, we have to go into the shadow self. We cannot be afraid of going into the shadow self. And if we're afraid of the dark, then we can't truly be appreciating the light. Because in the darkness, and when we bring our light into somebody else's darkness, is how we help them grow. But we can't bring our light into that darkness if we're afraid of the dark ourselves. We have to embrace our own darkness. We have to love ourselves in that darkness. So, these are some of the misconceptions that I see. If you see some misconceptions, I would love to discuss them with people. What are you doing today? I see I got a couple of people watching. If anybody's got any comments, any questions about what I just talked about, I would love to have a discussion about it. And if nothing comes through, we're going to leave it there. Hmm. So, all right. Well, I don't see anything coming in on the chat. All right. Well, if that's it, if there's no questions, if there's no comments, if you do have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section below. We will see you next time. We are fixing to head out of town for Emily, so we may or be back. Okay, Shelly. Well, if you do have any questions or comments, you can also come back and leave us a comment on the replay. The comment section will be open for questions and comments and discussions as well. So, I hope that you have a fantastic weekend. We will be out of town next week. I do still have a video coming out. I got to finish getting it edited and uploaded before we leave. And we will see y'all next week. Y'all have a fantastic week, and we'll see you next time.